Hey guys, it's EJArendee. I'm going to make a video on ISTP versus INTP. From the outside, these types can look similar, only because of introversion. When they're younger, they're going to look really similar. And the reason for this is because they're going to physically look very similar. And the reason for this is because INTPs when you're young, you don't really work out, you don't really get muscular, etc. Now, ISTPs, when they start to get older, they start to act more ESTP-ish. They start to get out, do more things, become more physically active. And they actually start getting in more shape. This is most often the case, I would say, is they have a much more physical. When they're older, at least, they have a much more physically fit appearance. Because, well, they're sensors. They like to go out, extrovert sensing, jet ski, rock climb, do all this other fun stuff. And as they get older, they start to use that extrovert sensing more often. So they're going to start experiencing these. They're going to start becoming experiencers and experience the world and do physically active things that are kinetic. So they will typically have a much more physically fit appearance than an INTP, and it's a stereotype. It's not always the case, but it is well worth noting. It's very very often the case. There's a reason behind that stereotype. INTPs typically, they just don't understand their own bodily needs. They don't eat when they should. They don't always dress as if they don't always, take care of their physical appearance. They don't clip their nails. They don't comb their hair. They don't. And the reason for this is because introverted sensing is low on their to-do list. It's good enough; they can use it when they want to. But oftentimes, the case with any sort of extrovert intuitives is they're going to look kind of disheveled and need some sexy introverted sensor to come in and fix up their shit. Now. INTPs have extroverted intuition. Okay, the biggest difference between the two personalities is extroverted sensing versus extroverted intuition. So the way you can tell this is that, well, first of all, ISTPs have a much more practical approach to life, a much more practical, grounded. They're going to know how to do physical things. They're going to know how to. They're going to know how to do things. They enjoy learning. They're going to know how to fix cars. They're going to know how to ride motorcycles. They're going to know how to do a lot of things. Now, INTPs can also, okay? But their knowledge is going to be much more theoretical. And it's going to be, while an ISTP knows a lot about how a car engine works, or let me rephrase that. While an ISTP knows how to maneuver a motorcycle, okay, in a much more kinesthetic way, an INTP is going to know how a motorcycle works, okay? An INTP is going to know how a motorcycle works for the sake of knowing how it works, while an ISTP is going to know how a motorcycle works so they can use it, so they can fix it. They're going to have a functional knowledge of the motorcycle. Okay, so there's a difference between practical and theoretical application. Now, typically, what I've noticed is that for yourself, if you are curious which one you are, INTPs do this thing where they analyze the shit out of everything. Like, the question "what is" like the INTP question. What is real? What is baseball? Is it a? I don't even want to act INTP. It's gonna. I could if I want to, but it's take a little while for me to turn up all that bullshit. all that bullshit they can muster up. INTPs are like a self-sustained system. Their brain, oftentimes is the case. Oftentimes what's the case is that their body is a vessel for transporting their brain from here to there. And INTPs get energy from theoretical thought. So they will sit there and they'll think, what if this? What is that? What is this? And then they can just sit there and look like a vegetable and in bed and just think about things all day and be totally content because they're getting stimulated and they just think things and they just start making new things and they start thinking up new crazy ideas in their mind. And this actually energizes them, and then they'll start thinking faster, and they'll start getting like eccentric. Now, if you've ever seen like ENTPs who get really eccentric, really fast talking, this is how the INTPs start to feel when they are churning out all these crazy ideas in their head. Now, an ISTP is not as well suited to self-sustaining thought the way an INTP is. An INTP is able to sit there and do self-sustaining thought and think about all these new things and learn new things, while an ISTP needs to get out and do stuff every so often. If they don't do anything new, they start to get into this TINI loop where they start where they get stuck in a rut and they need to stop thinking, look outside their window, stand up, go outside and go for a walk, or do something new, join a yoga class, or do something else. So what's another big thing? INTPs are like children throughout. Okay, on the inside they're kind of childlike. On the outside they look kind of childlike, kind of goofy. They're not the most serious people. They're really not. They can be, but even when they're being serious, it's often presented in kind of a snarky way, kind of a goofy, joking way, while ISTPs are actually very serious and look like kids on the outside, but they're adults on the inside. So it's kind of something interesting to think about. ISTPs take their fun very seriously. Okay, if you're not taking the fun seriously, you need to take the pillow fort and a Nerf gun fight seriously. Okay, the INTPs are gonna be like, yeah, whatever, it's just, Nerf guns, whatever, fuck you, this ain't. Why so serious? And the ISTPs are like, no, you're doing it wrong. So you gotta kind of they take their fun seriously. Okay, fun is like work. Having fun is like working to an ISTP. But at the same time, ISTPs are hard workers. ISTPs are hard workers. They've got a lot of willpower. INTPs really don't. They don't have much willpower. As far as extroverted sensing goes, expansion of energy and stuff like that, like INTPs, they can be big boned, they can be big, imposing, they can look physically imposing sometimes, if they're not skinny as hell, but their voices are not going to be very. There's not a whole lot of oomph behind their voices. They sound kind of like your typical. They can sometimes sound like your typical bookworm. While ISTPs can be very, force of will, can apply volitional pressure with extroverted sensing very easily, no problem at all. They can get up in your face. I had an ISTP friend. He'd get up in my face. He was actually more it's weird because I'm the ESTP. I have the extroverted sensing, but I don't always use it. I don't always get up in people's face and say, "Listen, you little dick, cocksucking bitch, I'm gonna go." I don't get in people's faces and make fun of them, like that all the time. That's not. I can, and it's funny when I do, and I sometimes do it just for kicks. But it's funny because my ISTP friend would actually do that more often than I did. It's like it was like a new talent that he discovered, and he enjoyed practicing. And he would always use it on me. He'd be like, he'd come to me and be like, "Who do you think you are? Shut up. Shut the fuck off. Give me your pizza." Like, he would just like be a complete dick. It's so funny. But me, when I wanted to do it back to him, I could do it really. Like, at one point, he's walking through the hallway with a pizza, and I'm like, "What you got there? What you got there? What's that? Is that pizza? Is that food? Can I eat that? Are you gonna eat that? Do you like pizza?" And I would just like get like up in his grill and make him uncomfortable, and he'd be like, "Get away from me," and he'd start laughing. But it's yeah, you know, ISTPs can apply this sort of aggressive volitional pressure if they want to, and it's also part of their sense of humor. Another thing, ISTPs see, they're extroverted sensors with introverted intuition. So what that means is that they see images in their minds, and when they're describing something to you, they will use their hands to as if they're touching the object. Okay, if they're punching, if they're punching, reenacting a scene, they probably, you know, it's the extrovert sensors see these images in their mind, and they can play movies in their head. It's like while INTPs are not so much, they can't really play movies in their head. They get like flashes of essences in their minds, as far as I can tell. That's how it was explained to me. My brother, well, forget him. INTPs are sentimental. They are thinking about the past, while ISTPs are thinking about the future. Okay, the reason for this is because INTPs they have introverted sensing. ISTPs have introverted intuition. Okay, introverted intuition looks to the future. Introverted sensing looks to the past. So INTPs are going to be more sentimental. They're going to have more objects around the house that hold sentimental value, while ISTPs are not sentimental at all. They're going to have objects. They'll have objects around the house, but it's going to be more like, oh, I have this because it's a cool, fun gadget. You know, it's not so much, I hold this because this is the clamshell that my first love gave to me when we were walking on the beach. No, none of that fucking shit. So they're not going to have any of that sort of sentimental kind of stuff going. So, not sentimental. ISTPs are not sentimental. If you think you're sentimental and you think you're an ISTP, you're an ISTJ. Just throwing that out there. Also, if you think if I'm sitting here telling you that INTPs are not serious, and you're like, well, I'm an INTP and I'm incredibly serious and I take myself incredibly seriously, well, it's because you're an INTJ. So go look at the INTJ video, INTJ versus INTP. What else? Yeah, so that's really all I got. Have a good one.